Welcome to Bangkok. Being both one of the largest and oldest major metropolitans in Southeast Asia, it's safe to say that Bangkok has got some stuff figured out. And because of both of those things, in today's video, I have rounded up 7 things that I think Bangkok just does better than most other cities, including the one you might be living in right now. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Today, unfortunately, we are hiding out in the condo. The pollution levels are a bit high today. None of us are getting any younger. I've been trying to pay attention to that, making sure I can, do what I can to take care of this body that has already been relatively beat to hell. But anyways, in regards to the pollution, that's another point we're gonna get to a little bit later in today's video. But like we mentioned, I've rounded up 7 things after spending some time in Bangkok that I think this city does better than most other places, mostly comparing to America, places that I've lived in the States, but also some other places in Thailand. If you have been thinking about making a trip soon, hopefully by the end of this video, we can give you a little nudge, that little push you might need to get out of the door. And especially when it comes to our final point of the day, this is by and far my favorite thing about Bangkok, the thing that, really attracted me to come here myself personally. So make sure you stick it out. Let's get into it. Now, first things first, one major thing that I think Bangkok does a lot better than a lot of other places is traffic. Now, this might seem kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure Bangkok is well over 10 million people, and you hear others talk about traffic all the time. And yes, it can be bad. Especially certain times of day, certain areas in town. But the thing that I think Bangkok does better than most major cities when it comes to traffic is just the organized chaos. Everybody just kind of understands that, hey, this is what it is. We're all here. We're all in this together. So you don't really see people freaking out on each other, road rage, things like that. Of course, no place is perfect. Those things do happen. But compared to the frequency, especially coming from America, and I lived in Phoenix, which can have bad traffic, but it's nothing like LA or, Chicago, New York. Those places, when you are bumper to bumper traffic, you can pretty much look in any direction and you will probably see a fight. When it comes to Bangkok, that's not necessarily true. And just kind of the organized chaos, it's honestly really impressive to me that there are this many people driving around. There's this many people trying to get home or go to work, whatever. And they all just kind of make it work. And even though, compared to a lot of other cities, Bangkok does not have a whole lot of stop signs or traffic lights. And now, while some of these intersections can get pretty backed up at times, it still amazes me how fluid everybody can kind of just work through and get it done. And another thing that I think Bangkok does really well when it comes to this is they do understand that there does need to be other infrastructure changes, which is another point we'll get into a little bit later, but it's only really bad in certain areas of town, around my neighborhood, really the Sukhumvit area. And a lot of the times you can be on one road that is completely bumper to bumper, ridiculous, not moving, then you hop 1 or 2 roads over and you can get to where you're going, tons of little side alleys, so you can make it work. And I think, just the communal aspect of everybody just kind of understanding, hey, this is what it is. We live here. Traffic is a thing, and there's nobody just laying on the horns or trying to get in fights. I think that is really awesome. Now, our next point is probably going to be no surprise if you've watched any type of content talking about Bangkok as a whole, but there might be some angles to it that most people don't really talk about, and that just has to do with food. Yes, there is amazing food to be had. There is Michelin star restaurants, whether it be Thai food, Western food, you name it. Everybody knows that. But one thing that an aspect that I don't think a lot of people harp on, especially when you're comparing it to a lot of cities in America. In America, if you say, hey, I want a cheeseburger, you got to go out, you got to hop in your car, and then you got to go drive to where you're going. That just does not really happen in Bangkok. Kind of tying into another point we'll get into a little bit later, just convenience. If you are hungry in Bangkok, you can just walk to the end of your block and you will have endless options, whether it be restaurants, street food, you name it. You can't really walk more than like 100 feet without having some type of food option. Now, if you are constantly trying to eat healthy or, just paying attention to your calories, things like that, it can be a bit hard if you don't have very good self-control, because everywhere you walk, you're gonna see stuff that looks great and it's affordable. A big reason that I started eating better in America, or was just paying attention to it more, is because of how expensive it was. It's like, man, I really want that burger and fries from whatever restaurant, but that thing's gonna be like $25. In Bangkok, not really a thing. If you've got $5, you can go out, you can get some good food. Some people might say this is a bad thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing just because of the amount of options you have. So with both the quality and the availability for food, I mean, at least in all the cities I've been to, I don't think anywhere else really even comes close. As an American, we are all pretty used to a lot of cities being a melting pot. You walk around, you see all types of different people from all over the world, and that is true in the vast majority of big cities in America. But Bangkok especially is just so tapped into just being an international city, just a huge melting pot. And the thing I think they do better about it, in a lot of cities in America, things kind of get split up. You know what I mean? If there's a lot of a certain demographic in a neighborhood, that's kind of the vibe that happens in that neighborhood. And then if you go somewhere else, it's not really the same. As opposed to Bangkok, everywhere you go is kind of catered to everybody for the most part. Yes, there are some districts, Chinatown and a couple other spots that are kind of aligned at one demographic, but pretty much everywhere you go in Bangkok, you're gonna see all different types of people. You're gonna hear all different types of language. And the thing that I think Bangkok really does well is building the infrastructure and the means for these people to enjoy the things from their country that they might not have as much access to here. But at the same time, Bangkok has this honestly really strange way of still keeping that, Thai charm and tied into their roots, while also providing all these things from all these people all over the world. Of course, Bangkok, being the capital of Thailand, is a very professional city. So there's a lot of people coming here for work. There's a lot of people that might not have chosen to come to Thailand necessarily. So I think it is great that there's just support for people all over the world. No matter where you come from, you can find something that you enjoy in Bangkok, or you can find that neighborhood you like, but also not completely lose sight that, hey, this is Thailand, this is Bangkok. So I think the charm, while also having everything for all those people, myself included, I think it doesn't even come close. Now, like we mentioned earlier, the Bangkok metropolis, the whole entirety of quote unquote Bangkok, it is absolutely massive. It is so many people. And when you have that many people in one area, there's certain things that are going to come with it, certain negative things. Like we mentioned earlier with the pollution, whether it be infrastructure for waste management, things like that, there's things that come with that many people being in one spot. But one thing I've noticed, Bangkok, especially for this part of the world, is pretty progressive and pretty forward thinking when it comes to things like sustainability. Thing about it is if you have, 10 million people in one city, pollution is absolutely going to be a thing. But at the same time, the Bangkok government and the Thai government as a whole does recognize this, and they do things to try to combat that. They do cloud seeding here to try to get some rain to come down so it can bring the pollution levels down. Yes, that's actually a thing. If you've never read up on cloud seeding, we can make rain. Arguments on whether it's good for the environment or not, that's one thing, but it does for sure bring the pollution down. Another thing that they have been seriously investing a lot of time and money into is improving the waste management side of everything. Of course, this many people, everybody's got their own garbage, everybody's got their own poo. That all has to go somewhere. And Bangkok is 100% making efforts to improve that infrastructure. Things like green spaces, tearing down old buildings and building parks, just so the city can breathe a little bit more. Of course, these type of things and these changes to the way a city operates doesn't happen overnight. So, and especially when you compare it to a lot of places in this kind of region of the world, the thing about it is, we're so green in America now relatively to the rest of the world. A lot of places, especially across Asia, are not, but Bangkok is actually very progressive, when comparing it to other places that might be nearby. Now, another thing that I think Bangkok does really well, and another reason that I really wanted to move up here, is just convenience convenience, convenience. Now, while most of Thailand is much more convenient than most cities in America for the reasons we'll get into right now, Bangkok is just on a whole other level. Like we mentioned earlier, if you're living in America, you pretty much have to have a car. Some cities on the East Coast are a little bit better with public transportation, but being from the West Coast area, public transportation is just not really a thing. If you want to go to the grocery store, walking there is not really feasible. That is just not a thing in Bangkok, especially when you get more towards the inner city. You don't have to be, right in the middle of downtown, but almost every neighborhood in Bangkok, if you don't want to, you don't really have to leave your neighborhood. You don't have to have a bike. You don't have to have a car. You're going to have grocery options. You're going to have 7-Elevens. You're going to have, bars, restaurants, whatever, you name it. Unless you want to go somewhere else, you don't really have to. Having a bike is nice, but you could totally get by living here without having any type of personal transportation. Everything from the taxis to the trains, getting around is very easy. And just being able to be in your neighborhood. Me personally, I love kind of going to the same spots. If I find a restaurant that I like or a coffee shop, I like being able to go to the same place, meet people, get to know the people that work there. And that is so easy to do in Bangkok. If you're somewhat of a homebody or you hate having to, drive 30 minutes across town to go do your errands or your grocery shopping or whatever, I don't think there's a better place to be in Thailand than Bangkok, just because if you don't want to, you don't ever have to leave your neighborhood. And for the most part, if you don't want to, you don't have to ever leave your house. Now, when I was writing down this next point, I was thinking about living in Phoenix in Arizona, and it really started to blow my mind the more I thought about it. If you don't know, in Phoenix in the summer, it can get up to like 115, 120 degrees. It is absolutely miserable. Like, people die. That's very real. And for some reason, it seems like the people that are building infrastructure in Phoenix just either don't really know this or they don't care. Everything from bus stops, sidewalks, you name it, you're always just in direct sunlight. It is not a strange thing at all if somebody is walking in Phoenix in the summer, which is already pretty rare, but people will be standing behind light poles to try to get some shade. Bangkok gets miserably hot at times. It's very humid. It's never really under like 80 degrees for the most part. But when I cruise around here, especially downtown Sukhumvit area, pretty much all of this area, kind of central Bangkok, you can tell that people have really thought about, hey, it's hot. We want people to come here, and people are going to be more inclined to come here if it's pretty comfortable. Everything from, covered sidewalks, plenty of shade, all the bus stops are covered. And granted, when it's humid, it doesn't do as much to keep you cool, but of course it's better than being just in direct sunlight. And then of course, everywhere has amazing air conditioning. It seems like there's just a much more active effort to be like, hey, it gets really hot here. There's people that are walking around. There's plenty of people in Bangkok that don't have a car, don't have a bike. So let's try to do something to, make it not so miserable. Even with a lot of the roads, elevated roads are 100% a thing here, but a lot of the time they build the frontage roads right under the elevated one. So if you are on a bike, you are walking, you're in the shade. I can't believe, the more I thought about it in Phoenix, just the more ridiculous I realized it was. Like, people are out here falling out waiting for the bus, and they're like, shade, we don't need it. Bangkok, on the other hand, you can at least tell in a lot of places, not everywhere, but there's at least been some type of consideration. Be like, hey, maybe we should just build a little bit of shade here. And by far, the thing that I feel like Bangkok does better than anywhere else, at least all the places that I've lived and visited for the most part, is the access to whatever type of lifestyle that you want. Now, a lot of content creators, you will hear them mention that, oh, well, Bangkok is more expensive than everywhere else in Thailand. First of all, even on the very surface, I don't think I agree with that entirely, but it is somewhat true in the sense that if you pay for the exact same thing in Bangkok and then you go buy that other thing, you go buy the exact same thing maybe out in Isan or somewhere, yeah, it might be a little bit cheaper, but that's not to say that those cheaper things, there's no access to them in Bangkok. That just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Being such a huge city and so many people coming here to work or live here, there's infrastructure built for everybody. Like we mentioned earlier, Bangkok is a professional city, and there's plenty of middle-class Thai people that are living here and working here. And of course, they need infrastructure and they need things for them to be able to survive and be happy as well. It's not like, a place like LA, minus, you live way out in like Corona or something like that, you just can't get a condo anywhere in LA for like less than $2,000. Now, in Bangkok, are there expensive condos? Of course, there's expensive condos everywhere, but that's not to say that you can't find stuff that's more budget friendly. If you are on a tighter budget, or you just like to live a little bit more frugal, you can also do that in Bangkok. Don't think that, just because you're not balling out, you can't, live in Bangkok and be happy. And on the flip side of that, if you enjoy the finer things in life, you want to go out and do some fancy stuff every once in a while. We always say here, you don't got to be fancy to like fancy shit. So if you want to do that, you can as well. If you want to go to, super nice, white tablecloth restaurants, if you want to live in a super bougie condo downtown, you can absolutely do that. You can be in Bangkok, pretty much in the heart, down here by Sukhumvit, and you can live on a budget, you can find affordable food, you can find affordable services, or on the flip side of that, if you want to spend a little bit extra, you can have a crazy month, or you can get a nicer condo. The duality of the lifestyles you can have here, I don't really think anywhere that I've been, at least, that there's anywhere that does it better. Now, of course, no city is perfect. Just like with moving anywhere else, if you're thinking about coming to Bangkok, you have to weigh the pros and cons and what exactly it is you're looking for from your experience, how you like to live your life. But for me personally, there are a hell of a lot more positives to living in Bangkok than negatives. So if you are thinking about coming, I say you just do it. Come check it out. Or else. If you did make it this far in the video, thank you so much for hanging out. And of course, I want to hear from you. If there's some things that you think Bangkok does better than anywhere else, not even just in Thailand, but things that you think Bangkok has locked in, please let me know down in the comments below. Or on the flip side of that, if you think there's things that could be improved on, I'd love to hear those as well. Once again, thank you so much for making it this far in the video. We are on the grind for 20K subscribers. So if you would like to see more from Bangkok and Thailand as a whole, you know what to do. All those little buttons are down there. But it's time for me to go get some food. Thank you so much for being here. See you guys in the next one.